Hello, welcome to the Backpack Show with Chris Brogan, who is not here because he's on an airplane far, far away. But don't worry, we have a very special guest co-host, Rob Zaleski, otherwise known as Rob Z, gnome addict, accomplished podcaster, and head of what do you do now? Digital branding or something important
Head of
like
brand
that?
for an
There you go.
online shipping
Shipping
solution.
easy for the shipping solution. But I'm really excited. Do you want to talk about today's guest? Chris Rodriguez
Yes,
from
so
Revry.
Chris Rodriguez is the founder and CEO of Revry, which is a queer-based streaming service. And I'm really excited to talk to him. He's got a really interesting background coming from like a poli-sci degree and then moving into producing and creating all this content. So I think he's going to have a really great perspective to bring
I,
to the
you
show here.
know, I have a trans kid. I am so here for representation. So I am excited about this. I promise it's going to be fun.
No doubt about it.
Welcome to the Backpack Show with your host, Chris Brogan and Kerry O'Shea Gorgone. Boom shakalaka!
Man, I love the After Dark ones. We got to do more After Dark episodes. Not only is it 4 p.m. in California, although it's definitely dark, but I just like the additional, addition of the different guests we have and stuff like that.
Heck
Makes it a
yeah.
lot of fun. All right, let's do the thing. I'm so excited. Thanks for doing this with me, Rob. Let's get Chris
I'm
up here.
excited to be here. This is
You
going to
want
be
to
a lot
start?
of fun.
So excited. Chris, thanks for joining
Hello.
us. We had to
Thank
have a
you.
replacement Chris. There's a contractual requirement, one Chris per episode. So, so Revry, founded in 2016. Is that right?
2015, technically, actually.
So, how did it come together? Like, what's the origin
Yeah,
story?
yeah. It is crazy talking about it so many years later because it has been a passion project in many ways, but now we're in such a different place than when this was initially an idea. So I'm actually one of four co-founders, which is equal co-founders, which is something that's very unique in business. Something else that's very unique is that we're extremely diverse. We're 75% people of color founded, 50% women of color founded, 75% queer, 50% non-binary. I know that's a lot, like with just four people, but we really like naturally tick off a lot of those boxes. I'm Latino. I don't speak Spanish, unfortunately. It's a big regret of my life, especially right now, because our big hit show is a Spanish language show, but I can discuss that later.
Yes,
Um,
the drag Latina.
yeah, drag Latina. But look, like back to 2015, I actually had met one of my other co-founders, Aaliyah J. Daniels, in law school, and we were both trying to get into entertainment law, which is very difficult if you don't have connections. But we were very passionate. I think we were both at our heart just creatives who kind of found our way to the law in a roundabout way, but we really always had our heart in the creative side. I used to be an artist when I was in when I was in high school. A lot of people were surprised that I became a lawyer, but yeah,
Oh, I want to
2015.
unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I usually say recovering lawyer, some of my former classmates say as well. I mean, look, it's a great profession. It gave me some invaluable skills. Aaliyah would say the same thing, but there was something that I wanted a little bit, just a little bit more creativity to do something unique. So yeah, actually, so the ironic thing too about this was that all my other co-founders, they always wanted to own their own businesses and be in control of their lives. I never actually aspired to that. I never really thought about it. But the job that I had before we started Revry, I was the production attorney for Shark Tank. I was working for United Artists MGM, and obviously you have probably all seen that show, and it's all about these entrepreneurs, some of them good, some of them not so good, but all of them very motivated, trying to do something on their own. And part of my job was reviewing footage all the time, and it did start to click with me where I'm like, these guys, they're the ones who are really like taking the risk and doing something that could be amazing, like, win, lose, or draw. So it kind of like sparked that seed in my head. And then I mean, look, we've talked about this a lot. My other co-founder, Damian Pelliccioni, he's actually the CEO. I'm the chief business officer.
Yes, I meant to correct that.
No, that's okay. No worries. These are all. It's when you're like a small startup, especially at the beginning too. They were almost like honorary titles because it was four of us doing everything. Now, definitely, Damian is the CEO. But and I can tell you a little bit more about what I actually do at Revry. Because chief business officer doesn't really explain it, but long story short, they had just come out with a new Apple TV. So this was in 2015, and what was different about it, and what we saw as people who were very in tune with entertainment and tech, is it was an open source system. The old Apple TVs used to have like only pre-installed apps like Netflix, right? And that was the only, like, we loved Apple TVs. That was the future OTT, over the top television. Of course, it had been around for a long time, but when Apple does it, suddenly it's like a game changer, right? It's crossing that barrier where then it like mass adoptability, and we saw it and it was like, wait a minute, this is open source. It's like with your phone where you could create an app. You could be an independent developer who could create an app. And I actually broke my phone, and me and Damien, my co-founder, and he's also my partner. We've been together for 16 years, actually.
That's sweet.
Thank you. We're just 1 year married. We just got back from Hawaii for a
Congratulations.
Thank you, for a delayed honeymoon. So, but I had actually broke my iPhone, and we were in the Apple store in Vegas, and we went to replace it because I was back in the day where you would go to the Apple store. And we searched the new Apple TV and totally expecting to find something like Revry already existing, like at least logo, right? And there was nothing. And we realized, hey, we're right. This is going to be the future of TV. And this is an opportunity. And then we immediately started working on it. I quit my job. I literally, like, on a whim, quit my job and started working on it immediately. And then, yes, by 2016, we were live in all the app stores.
That is incredible. That takes a lot of
Thanks.
bravery to just quit your job and like really follow that passion project.
It was weird. It was strange. I've never had something. It just felt right. It felt right, and we had the support with. Again, this is the other benefit of having other equal co-founders, is everyone has equal skin in the game. So, and we all just really believed in it. We wanted to create this platform that was super inclusive. Oh, thank you. It was super inclusive. And this was also during I don't know if you all remember, but the Oscars So White controversy, but it was when people were really criticizing the Academy Awards for just like really stepping a lot of POC people. And we were like, yeah, hello, this has been a big problem for a long time, especially on the queer side. And so, like, we really wanted to make this platform. And also we wanted to make one that was not what you would expect. Like, our whole thing that we always talk about is LGBTQ is a demographic, but queer is a culture. And the culture of queer is really what Revry is focused on. It's so much more expansive than gender markers or sexuality. That's so reductive to like even talk about it that way. That doesn't form these cultures, but we have so much more beyond just that to offer to the community. I mean, look at something like ballroom culture, which originated from ballroom Vogue dancing, which originated from the queer community in New York, and now it's there was an HBO Max show, Legendary, which was a big hit. You're seeing it more in performances like Lil Nas X. You're really seeing this come to the forefront. This has kind of always been there, but now we're in a point where we're taking some of this culture, these cultural offerings more seriously.
But people didn't used to have to hide that they were into ballroom dancing. They didn't used to be threatening to your career and existence. So what you're doing is really important work. Hi, Leslie.
Right. And look, it's different times too. I always say that I owe a lot of the success of what we're doing to us being the right team, having the right ideas, but also timing. We're in a post-marriage equality world, and when like Logo, I'd mentioned before, when they came out, it was like 2005 or something. This was much more of a gamble for them. They were partially an advertiser supported platform. They were a cable channel, and advertisers didn't want to work with them. And now it's completely different. It's the exact opposite. So many Fortune 500 brands want to work with minority-owned and focused businesses, and that's where we kind of have it all wrapped up into one.
It's really great to see that
Representation is
progress.
so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, so I have, like I mentioned, I have a trans kid, but all of their friends have been able to find the words for who they are and how they want to live and who they want to love. It's all become possible because they're able to find people like themselves on YouTube and on other platforms. So when did you realize that representation was really important in the entertainment business? Because there's so many people who've had to start like niche streaming services just to get stories, like women's stories or people of color. It's vastly underrepresented in just mainstream media still.
Yeah, no, it's still a problem. And I mean, look at like the yearly GLAAD reports. We're still probably not there where we need to be. And there are still like some problematic depictions of LGBTQ people where they're often the first to like get murdered if it's a horror movie, or like just like have their relationship kind of de-sexualized in a way where it's like, oh, that's not like real people. Like people bring up like Mitch and Cam from Modern Family, where it's like, yeah, they were cute and did introduce a lot of people to gay couples, but they were very sexless, and that's just not the way. Like in that way, it wasn't super accurate.
Right,
No,
that's
look, we
straight
always.
couples.
I guess that's every couple after a while.
Like I just want to get
But
in my
look,
sweats and watch Dancing with the Stars.
right, and there's nothing wrong with that. But no, look, I actually don't think it's funny because, initially, like, yes, let's try to get as much accurate representation out in the mainstream so people can see that. But I don't think it's a bad thing that there's these kind of niche focused services, networks that really like focus on a particular community. And I think that could be the future. I mean, it certainly is with Revry. This is where our entire audience is. Where we created this space where we can be unapologetically who we are, and we don't, even with the advertisers, we don't need to kind of kowtow to be like, well, we may be putting off that woman and that straight cis woman in the middle of like Oklahoma, so maybe we shouldn't say that. That our benefit is to be like, we don't kowtow to that at all. Like, and people who like to watch our network, and it's not just queer people, by the way, they come to see this authentic perspective of queer culture and to kind of be a fly on the wall. But they don't want it watered down. A lot of like you were mentioning the kids and like Gen Z, they don't want their entertainment watered down. Now that's not to say we like have depressing storylines. If anything, it's about like joy and really embracing who we are. But yeah, I think this new world of where the main, it used to be the gatekeepers in entertainment. Like there used to literally be like 4 main networks, and if you couldn't get on one of those channels, then you couldn't reach an audience. And yes, the viewership of those was massive compared to what it is now. And so because now it's been divided and there's more options. But again, I think that ultimately it's a good thing.
So I'm curious, you kind of talked about being in like a post-marriage equality world, but with the current climate and the conversations that are happening out there that are, truly dreadful from a content perspective and like what you guys are creating, has that given you an opportunity to take that and run with it and create new stories, or has it affected you guys at all in terms of like what you're trying to put out into the world?
Well, I mean, it reminds the world that even though we are in post-marriage equality, there's still a long way to go. And people like we always say, look, we're a global platform, so we're a little on the coasts over here. Like I'm in Los Angeles. We're a little spoiled about how far we've advanced, because go to other parts of the world, go even to Middle America, and
Go to
there is a
Tennessee.
lot more. Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's decades behind us in many ways.
Blue dot in a red state here.
Oh yeah, Austin. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just you.
No, and so look, we don't want to like preach the converted, because yes, there is so much more progress to go. But look, the whole post-marriage equality thing, what that has allowed for us is it's changed the general atmosphere about, like, look at politics. It used to be where you could still like be like, yeah, I don't really like gay people, or I like love the sinner, hate the sin sort of thing. You can't really do that anymore because they've kind of shifted, the culture has shifted on politics. And that has allowed advertisers to embrace the queer community, which means that we can work with them and we can get some of those ad dollars to then give back to the community. So that's the good part. But then the other part is, yes, if we're still being marginalized, that just goes to show that something like Revry needs to exist, needs to continue to exist, to push these stories forward, to create this little universe where it's almost like the opposite, and like the minority queer people are actually the majority. If you look at our like live TV channels and stuff, I think that's beneficial.
Speaking of ad dollars, Castos.com, if you want to
Well
host
done.
a podcast, Castos.com makes it stupid easy. And you know that's true because Chris wouldn't put up a podcast if it wasn't easy. Hey, if you'd like to make a show just like this one, go to cbrogan.net/StreamYard and you get a free trial, 14-day free trial of all the things that make our show awesome, except get your awesome co-host. You'll have to get your own special guest for that. And .online domain, you can go to cbrogan.net/online to get your online domain. You have to use the code Chris in all caps. You title case it, do not lowercase it. It has to be all caps. But then you can get the domain for $1 for a year. So do that. And then if you're tired of Google, use Presearch, stick it to the man. I actually really love Presearch. Presearch started because the founder got upset that Google like purposely took the SEO juice away from these little business pages in his community that had worked really hard to rank. So he started Presearch because screw those guys. Presearch.com. Yay, we did it. That's all our ad.
Damn the man.
That's all our ad dollars. So like my most fervent hope would be that eventually it won't be like, we're going to tell women's stories, or we're going to tell Black women's stories, or we're going to tell LGBTQ stories. But realistically, we're way away from that. Like we actually do need something like Revry, where people can go and know that they're going to be seeing themselves reflected somewhere in the story.
Totally. And look, also it's kind of a state of mind. Like right now, the one of the problems we're solving is creating this source, this go-to destination for like quality queer entertainment. But I always say that there was a reason that we didn't name ourselves Rainbow TV. And it's because at our core, and if you see the 4 co-founders together and you like hear us speak, it's really about creating a platform for marginalized voices, and just a freer platform, something where we can do what we want, both from a content perspective, but also being innovative from a distribution and tech perspective. Because we're not really a tech company, but we kind of toe the line between content, tech, and advertising, ad sales more. But yeah, it's like we just like kind of being innovative. Even the way that we distribute is pretty unique. Do you want me to kind of like explain it? It is a little, it's like, I don't know how technical you want to get, but would that be?
I mean, I vote somewhat technical. I want to get this right. You think it's like a middle technical? Like well, not so grandma, but not Gen Z kid. Somewhere between.
Well, see, the Gen Z kid won't even like necessarily be able to know. Like, look, I always go out of my way to explain the way that we distribute in our business model, because it is different and it is new. Even like, I talk to folks at major companies doing, distribution deals with their titles, and they don't still know what the new scope of the land is. So like, I'll try to be as concise as possible, but in addition to us being unique because we focus on the queer community, Revry is unique because we are a streaming network. So I'm sure you guys all have an idea in your head of what a streaming network looks like. And most of the time you're probably thinking of SVOD. So subscription video on demand. That's Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu. That's where you go into the app, you have to download the app, and then you decide what to watch. And you probably pay a monthly or yearly subscription to have access to that. People are more familiar. Yeah, I know. I pay for way too many. People are also probably familiar with AVOD platforms. The most common is YouTube. That's been around forever. But some of these bigger streamers that focus on AVOD are like Tubi or Peacock. even though they're very much a mixed model. So the big thing with those is, again, you're going into Peacock, you're going into Tubi, you're going into Netflix, and you're deciding what to watch. This can be a problem, by the way. I don't know if you've ever heard of this thing called the paradox of choice. But it's this idea that if Netflix gives you too many things to watch, you may end up watching nothing and getting overwhelmed. And
infinite scrolling.
yeah,
That's
or
what you end up doing.
Or being in a position where you have to get on your phone and be like, oh, we have to do research. What are people talking about? Blah blah blah. This is something I think actually Disney is really good at, because they have a much smaller offering, so it's easier to choose with them, and I always end up watching more with them. But what could be even better, and this is what we kind of saw the writing was on the wall when this first came out, would be back to the world where you're not choosing a show to watch, you're choosing a channel to watch, and the channel is curating to you 24/7. And back to these old days of, must-see TV, Thursday night, you had to tune in to watch the new episode of Friends or Seinfeld. I know this is aging me, but like, here's the thing though, that drove viewership. It made it easier for people to choose. And it put the network. Yeah, absolutely. And it puts the network also more on blast to be like, hey, if you're like, hey, this stuff's really good, you have to check this out Thursday night, and it wasn't, then you kind of lose your reputation. And it actually makes it easier for the audience, because then they're like, no, I like NBC. NBC always has good stuff. I'm going to trust them. So obviously live cable TV has been around forever, but the new thing, and this is the point that I like to differentiate with what Revry focuses on. We have SVOD and AVOD, and you could download our apps, and if you don't want to watch commercials, you can watch all of our content on demand, and you can watch most of it on demand for free. The only stuff we have to put behind the paywall is stuff that has like nudity, things that we would feel like uncomfortable putting. Like,
I have to go behind the paywall.
You're gonna have to subscribe. Well, we have a free trial, of course. But Revry's focus, we have that, but our focus is on something called FAST. Now I get to it. It stands for free ad supported.
So it's the opposite of fast.
I know. Yes, I know. My description is very slow. It's free ad-supported streaming TV, and it's basically old school live TV. The difference is it's truly free. You don't need a cable subscription, and you have to watch ads. And it's all delivered via the internet. So you don't need a cable box. You just connect to the internet. Probably the most famous of these platforms is Pluto TV. Have you ever heard of Pluto?
Not familiar with that one.
No? Oh, yeah, no.
How much nudity do they have?
No, none, because it's all ad supported. But no, there's Freevee is the other one. Amazon. It used to be Amazon IMDb TV. Have you ever heard of Freevee? It's owned by Amazon.
I'm slightly familiar with that one.
So this is Amazon's big foray, and again, it's fast. It's a selection of channels, of which Revry is one, and often we're the exclusive LGBTQ channel. And this is where people discover us, in what is called an EPG, or like a list of channels. And then it's Friday night or it's Sunday night at 7 p.m. and you have to check out the new episode of Drag Latina, and people just tune in.
That show looks crazy fun. You talk about Drag Latina. Like, how's the ad revenue on that one? Because that looks fun.
No, it's great. Our whole thing is for season 2, bringing in a dedicated advertiser. And there's so many people that are trying to reach out to the Latinx population. Yeah, that's an interesting one too, because again, it's all in Spanish. It's our first drag competition show. It's only one of our second or third reality shows, but we're getting into a lot more. It's a drag competition show hosted by Pedro and Ninel Conde, who are huge music artists in Central America. But the interesting thing about it, though, is that a lot of these regional drag competition shows are very regional. They're focused on a country, it's just this country or that country or this country. Even US is mainly US, right? For Drag Race. Drag Latina is international. So part of what you see is because there's a lot of people who speak Spanish in a lot of different countries all over the world. And this is one of the things we're trying to educate, right? It's not, there are native Spanish speakers in the United States who have been born and raised here and who may or may not speak English. And that's just part of a really cool eclectic world that we live in. So we really wanted to kind of honor that. And the way the cards landed, a lot of these queens are representing their different countries of origin, like Puerto Rico, Cuba, Guatemala, and really telling these different stories and showing their different experience. Plus, it's just it's just a lot of fun. My Hispanic sisters, they really bring a lot of flair and spiciness to these shows.
I just saw that 2 beauty queens got married, and I was like, "Hell yes!" And they had kept it a secret, and I thought every
That's pretty
incel
amazing.
in the world is like
That
crying today, like, "Boo-hoo, they actually had a chance," right?
that's
So
so cool.
with your background in reality TV and, that whole world, like how involved are you with like bringing these to fruition? Do you have like a separate team? Or are you like consulting on like how does that dynamic work?
So it's mainly I head up. So again, like my role is technically chief business officer, but that doesn't really explain a lot of what I do. I head up the I'm kind of like interim creative director. I head up all content acquisition and content development.
Oh
Most of
wow.
our most of our content development, like when we're really developing a show from scratch, it's via some brand partnership. So our we kind of have like these seasonal shows, and now Drag Latina is going to be the new one, but our first big advertiser was Lexus, and they actually came to us when we didn't necessarily have the capabilities to deliver advertising impressions, but they really wanted to work with us, and we did too. It also added to our mission because we from the very beginning we wanted Revry to be free. We did not want to force anyone behind a paywall because we want people to see this stuff. But now since then, we've developed where we have these year-long partnerships, and they also underwrite content. They help to underwrite content. So our big ones are in during Pride season. At the top of Pride season, we have House of Pride, which is our originally produced variety show. It's basically just a variety show, but it's presented by McDonald's or the premier sponsor. We even open every show with we commission an original song from an independent queer music artist, and then we have this big cold open like dance number where we bring in other queer artists who they may or may not have ever known or worked with, and they do this big colorful opening, and it's so much
Wow.
fun. It's just a really great way. It's like a quasi commercial, but like it's not really heavy handed. It's like you open in this McDonald's, and the rest of the show is just these really great performers. Last year we had Keenan Lonsdale, who's also an actor. I think he was the love interest in Love, Simon, but he's also this amazing performer. Really check out last year's House of Pride, and then Frankie Simone, who's non-binary, amazing performer as well, who's Hispanic, and two of her songs were in Spanish because we love multiculturalism. But there's that one that we do, and then we have our other Pride season, which is October. If you didn't know, October is LGBT History Month, and October 11th is National Coming Out Day.
Mhm.
So we basically like put a stake in the ground in that period to kind of really own that period with our sponsors and with our platforms to promote for us. And we have a show called the Queer X Awards, which is like a queer pop culture award show. We actually really kind of tinkered with the format this year. And it was just amazing. Like we opened again. There's like live music performances, Kid Ken and Phaedra and Nanelle, who are the host of Drag Latina. But it's all these big like queer pop culture. Like we gave a best queer Twitch streamer because a lot of queer people are into gaming.
Love that.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And then it's funny because like when we first did this, I didn't even hold out hope that the winners, because some of them were big, would accept, but most of them did. And like even we didn't get queer anthem of the year was "Break My Soul." We didn't get Beyonce, but we did get Big Frida, who was featured heavily in that track. And then we had Kim Petras, who was a winner of our big visibility award. So
I
um,
have to ask you one Shark Tank question. I'm sorry, but did you purposely
yeah.
pick like one dog per show to be like, spiked leggings, like this isn't gonna work, and put it in just because?
Well, I mean, that would be the producer, I guess, going on in the producer's head. Probably they like underdog shows, but they also like having. It's the same thing with like reality show. You need one contestant who's like the weakest link.
Like William Hung.
Um,
Like,
Exactly.
but you can't have that. I feel like there must be a lot of pressure on you. Like you can't have any dogs. Everything in your lineup has got to be strong because people will look at you with greater scrutiny.
yeah, I
Some
mean,
people.
like, yeah, I mean, do you mean like the programming or like within
Like the
a
quality of
particular
the
show?
programming and the stories you're telling. I mean, literally everything, the writing, the acting, the casting for reality, like what's fake and what isn't. I just feel like you're going to have a higher level of scrutiny than any other network out there practically.
I mean, or the LGBTQ community is they are more sensitive, I think, to authenticity, which is something that we knew and we understand why too. But they appreciate when you're speaking from the heart, and they don't appreciate when you're pandering to them. And that's part of what we do too, of working with these bigger brands, is, you know, helping to kind of shepherd them through this world where it's like, hey, you got to like come from the heart. It can't be like pandery. It's Pride 365. We don't just exist during the summer months. And you know, and then we kind of like push them on their way. But yeah, look, it's funny. I did start with reality TV, and we didn't do reality for a long time, but we're really getting more into it because it's honestly, it's kind of fun, and like it also needs a shakeup, I think, right now. There's been a lot of like wheel spinning in terms of the way like it's generally done, and we like to, you know, this is where it's helpful to have upstarts who come into this world who weren't part of a bigger machine, who aren't owned. We are still independently owned, and we still can speak with our own voice. So I think that's a good thing. We're on the 11th, we're coming out with another reality show. It's a 4-part series called Stitch Please, which is hosted by this drag queen, Blue Hydrangea. I always mispronounce her name. She's a British drag queen, but it's basically like Drag Race meets Project Runway. So it's like
nice.
Yeah, they're like making like pop culture inspired outfits. They have a timetable, and then they have to kind of like strut on the runway. It's a lot of fun. It's totally the sort of stuff that, yeah, no, you got to check it. We actually have a lot of original stuff coming out of the next few months that we're really looking forward to. Once the premiere, the finale of Drag Latina is on the 20th, November 20th. It's going to be a double episode. Please check it out. Don't be afraid that you don't speak Spanish. We have these really cool stylized lower thirds or closed captioning for the English version. And after you watch like an episode, you won't even notice that you're reading. It's just like you're so into it, just like you would be with any show.
Can they do drag queen makeovers? Because who wouldn't go to that?
Right? Oh my gosh.
Like little pop-ups.
That's a good idea.
In different cities.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
I like that. This has been so much fun, but we definitely have to get to the most important question. And that is, this is the backpack show. So we have to ask you, what would be in your backpack? What goes in your backpack? It can be something intangible, or it can be something that you just always have to carry with you physically. But Chris, what goes in your backpack?
I mean, I would say patience has gone a long way for me. And that's not something that comes to me naturally, I'll be honest with you. But learning, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that makes it more valuable. It's something that I had to really work on. And this experience helped me with that, because it was not an overnight success. There was a lot of like blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, like we barely paid ourselves anything for like the first year. There was a lot of sacrifice, but I'm glad that I went through it. I never was entitled. That's the other thing that I'd probably throw out there, like lack of entitlement. Because no one's entitled to anything, even if you worked your ass off, and we did. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. It matters, but like, you got to be patient. You got to not be entitled. You got to just like get what you earn, and just keep on working at it. This is something that I did. Like, I saw this like streaming the Shark Tank episodes. It was the one thing that was in common with all these people. Like, call it like a crazy look in your eyes. Like, maybe that was it, just a little bit.
Third kind of insanity, for sure.
You need a little crazy, for sure.
Dog with a bone, maybe.
But like, I never had that, and that's what I saw, and I'm like, you know, that's where it's at. So like, I definitely have it now, but you could still be, you know, realistic. You can carry both of these things and be hopeful and realistic, and patient for the future.
As someone who has also never wanted to own a business or not really had that entrepreneurial spirit, you've given me hope that maybe I can still do that.
Yeah, you know what? At the end of the day, it really
giving Chloe hope that she'll learn Spanish.
Yeah, look, it's really, to me, it's about an idea. Like, I feel like it really came down to just wrapping your head around something that you really like. It's like, it's about like being curious and letting your curiosity take you wherever it naturally goes. Like we were talking about this, Rob, a little bit before, but like, I'm kind of a nerd. Like there's things that I love, and like there's nothing wrong with that. Like if anything, you like keep hold of the things that you love because that brings out your passion, and then an idea will pop up and it'll be like, no, I want to do this. And I'm willing to like sacrifice my time, my freedom, my energy to commit to this. And it doesn't feel like work. You know what I mean?
Especially when
Like
you can
they're
bring two
really,
worlds together.
yeah,
Subliminal
things.
learning through entertainment, says Leslie. Chloe says, super inspiring to hear how you had a vision, went all in, and are giving a spotlight to stories and shows that are often lost in the mainstream mix. Chris, thanks for sharing.
Oh, thank you,
Aw.
Chloe. That I appreciate that.
Yeah, that reminds me of my Uncle Phil. There was this one time that, see, I didn't have birthday parties when I was a kid. I still don't like them as an adult, but when I was a kid, I like never wanted one. And my Uncle Phil changed all that because this one time he showed up, he brought his whole band with him, and I was expecting him to come out like wearing his usual suit and everything. And instead, it turned out we were the same size, which was like awesome because I got to keep it after. He was amazing.